we're finally filtering into the room here. Please everyone find their seat. There's more seats available on this side of the room, over here. Let's get underway with our alumni panel. I want to thank our alumni for joining us today, and I want to start by having them go right down the line here and introduce themselves, their name, what year they graduated with, what degrees they graduated with, and then what they're up to these days, your current title, where you're working, and a brief description of what you do there.
I'm Emily. I just graduated this past spring in 2024 with my master's. And now I work for a hand surgeon who works at U of M. I work one full-time job, but I kind of hold two part-time roles. I'm a clinical research coordinator. So I go to a clinic and I meet with patients and enroll them in clinical trials. And then I also work as a statistician in our lab with some medical students running some small research projects.
Hi, I'm Sabir. I graduated in 2023, a funded master's student. I currently work right now at Michigan Medicine, which is the hospital system attached to the University of Michigan, in the urology department as a biostatistician. I work on research and quality improvement for treatment of prostate cancer. Is there anything else I'm supposed to say?
Nope, that's it. That's
okay.
Great.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Allison. I graduated in 2021 with my PhD, and I work in the biostat department as a statistician in the cancer data science group. So I do statistics for various cancer-related projects with different researchers around the university, and kind of do the stats, help with writing papers, and help with planning the stats for new grants.
Thank you. So, since this is an admitted student event, I wanted to ask you to reminisce briefly. You were all at an admitted student event, or at least making the decision as an admitted student to come to Michigan or go elsewhere. So, I want to ask you to maybe reminisce a little bit on what your background was as you were making that decision, and what advice you might have for the students in this room who face the same decision coming up that you all did in the very recent past.
I'm probably not the best to speak on this, actually. I got my bachelor's in math at a small liberal arts school in Virginia, and I applied to a bunch of grad schools. Michigan was just the first one to get back to me, and it was about a month until I got my next decision. And so in those couple of weeks, I fell in love with the UMich Biostats program, and it was kind of an easy decision at that point. So yeah, I didn't go through like a super hard time making that decision, but yeah.
Is there any advice you'd give the students as?
Yeah, I think funding is always like a hard thing to think about, but don't think of student loans as just free money. It's those 2 years, if you're doing a master's program, they'll go by quick, and you'll find yourself in however much student loan debt you take out. So definitely take funding into account, but also fit is an important thing too. So finding the balance between those two things is hard, but really important.
So I also went to a small liberal arts college in Massachusetts called Amherst College, where I was a double major in stats and Asian languages and civilizations, which is not really related to the work I ended up doing, but I knew I wanted to do biostats. I was really interested in public health for a while, even before I was even interested in statistics, so I knew that was the natural way forward for me to continue stats in grad school. What really appealed to Michigan about me was the opportunities for research, and I think that would be my advice. Like, even if you're not like given like a research like a funded research position with your offer, like there are a lot of opportunities to get involved and work with faculty. So I look at the departments you're considering, and like look at like what type of research specialties they're into, and like do they have a lot of expertise, and are they doing the stuff you want to be working on, regardless or not if you're funded or not. And I guess for my personal decision, I'd also be kind of a bad person to ask, because I was applying for master's degrees, and Michigan offered me a funded position, which was like pretty rare and pretty big thing for a master's degree. So that was pretty big for me. And I'm also from Ann Arbor. I was born right here in the Meah Hospital. So this has always been home for me. So it was just such a great fit. It was an easy decision for me as well.
So I'm also maybe didn't come here traditionally, but so I got a degree, my undergrad degree in math and computer science from also a small college in Detroit. I grew up in Michigan, so I kind of mostly applied to grad schools kind of in this area. And I actually started in a PhD program for pure math at a different university, but kind of didn't feel like pure math research was a good fit for me after a couple years there. So I applied here and got in, and so I decided to switch to this. I liked the more applied kind of research. So yeah, I didn't apply to a whole bunch of biostat departments when I came here, but yeah, I guess like for advice, I would also say like, do what you're doing now. Go to the places, try to learn if it's a good fit. If you feel like you fit in there, if you would be interested in the research that they do and that kind of thing. I don't know.
Good, thank you.
Next little bit here, I want to talk about your experience at Michigan. What was your favorite part of being at Michigan? It can be anything. It can be part of the program. It can be the social aspect. It can be the community. It can be anything that you really enjoyed during your time here.
I think the Biostat program here does a really good job of promoting community between students and faculty. There's a lot of opportunities you get to hang out with faculty in a less formal environment. You get to know them as people. And that was really fun, just going to events, getting free food all the time was like really, really cool. And they also promote hanging out in areas where you get to see other students just walking by or professors, where you can grab them for a quick question or something. So yeah, I really loved all of the events that were like really intentional about establishing and building community between students here and faculty. And I think you benefit in so many ways because you can chat casually with faculty and get to know some of their perspectives, but also hang out with other students as they're doing work or just living life. And you get to, learn their perspectives, but also like talk about homework and things that you're working through for classes.
So yeah, first of all, I do want to second that point about events. It is a really great part of the program. However, for me, my personal favorite thing about here was the creativity that the professors really let me express in my classes and my research. I am a very odd statistician, some people would say. But Jeremy Taylor, one of the professors who some of you may have met today, like whenever he sees me, he's like, "Hey, it's the machine learning guy," and that's because like in our capstone class, you'll hear it being referred to as 699, but it's a capstone class in the master's degree, and if you're a PhD student who's not going to a prior master's, I'm sure you'll be taking that one too. That's a class where like you do a bunch of projects, and I just like that's just a big memory for me because like there are projects where like students like, and there was one project where like almost every student did like a elastic net regression. I was like, no, I'm gonna do like a machine learning like random forest method. And so I just did a completely different method than everyone else in the class. And the professors there actually worked with me like in office hours, and like they even though I was doing something completely different, and I'm sure it was a huge inconvenience for them to have to accommodate someone who's doing some completely different methods and like answering all these questions all the time. They let me do that, and I ended up getting a really good grade on that project too. So that was just one of the really big memories for me, and a really good example of like how this department like lets you do the things you want to be doing and lets you be creative in your system methods.
So, I mean, one of the parts of the department that I liked the best was I made a lot of good friends when I was here. I still talk to. Definitely felt a sense of community with them, and we helped each other through classes, studying for balls, things like that. And I also really enjoyed my GSRA, like the research position that I had here. As I worked on more projects, I got to be more independent, and that really translated well over into the job that I have now. I do a lot of similar things that I did in my GSRA, so that was really useful, I think.
That's a great transition into my next question. I think both two of you actually addressed something like this. I want to expound more upon it. Any courses or projects or experiences, academically or research related, that you were part of that you feel were especially valuable looking back now that you're in your careers? Do you have any examples of projects or classes or anything of the like that you find prescient in your current day-to-day work?
Yeah, I can think of two things. So I was a GSI, a graduate student instructor, all 4 semesters that I was here, but the last 2 semesters I was teaching an intro stats class. And that was just really helpful in learning how to communicate statistics to people who don't speak statistics, because that's a big part of being a statistician, is you end up being a consult for a lot of things. So that was really valuable, just not only for the funding aspect of being a GSI, but also for, like, you're learning as you're teaching, you're also learning. And then also you mentioned 699, the capstone class that you take. For master students, it'll be your last semester. And it was, yeah, just really, I want to echo what you were saying about that, really invaluable, because you get to work on projects from start to finish, from asking the question to presenting your results. Cleaning data, you get real data that's pretty messy, and so it's cool to see like all sides of it, the whole process of starting with real data and telling a room of people what you found with it. Yeah, because I think in a lot of other classes outside of 699, you're given like clean data. It's pretty nice. So that was a really good experience, because in the real world, data's not that pretty.
If you don't mind my asking, can you talk a little bit about what your 699 project was?
Oh, there's a couple.
Or which one, maybe an example of one of your 699 projects.
Yeah, we worked actually on a project with your department on adjuvant therapies after prostatectomies. I can't really remember the whole project. But yeah, it was a couple of different collaborations with departments, and they would give us real data to analyze. There's like 3 or 4, but I can't remember all the specifics.
Great, thank you, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess my answer to this, my first answer at least, is pretty obvious. It's that same capstone course, 699 as we call it. And I think what's so valuable about that is that it's, if you're going to work as an, especially for my job as an academic biostatistician, although like probably for a lot of other biostatistician jobs as well, this class like really like is the one class that like really echoes like what you're going to be doing in a job like that. So it's actually presented by, like, you have projects presented by doctors or other like clinicians or like other people who are not statisticians, and that's a pretty valuable thing at first, because like all your other classes, you have statisticians as professors, and you're all speaking the same language. But when you get a project that's presented by other people, and that really forces you to adapt a little bit, and it really echoes like how my current job is now. When I work with doctors directly, they're not statistical experts, but we have to like both integrate our strengths together in the different clinical and statistical areas, and also be cognizant of our weaknesses and the fact we don't speak the same language. So 699 just like was such a valuable course in terms of like how it's so similar to like the real world of statistics. I will also say that that there are many other classes that were very useful as well, and it's not just the capstone course at the end. The capstone course at the end builds on all the classes before then, and which makes it so beautiful, because you have all your knowledge coming together in that one class. But that means all the other classes are pretty valuable as well. There is the base probability sequence, which really gave me a strong quantitative background, which even though I'm someone who really prefers to work in applied work and someone who's very application focused, knowing the theory and really gives me like a strong foundation to be able to pick up new methods and to like really understand what I'm doing. And also, I will say another shout out I have is for the longitudinal data analysis course, where the main thing there is like linear mixed models and generalized estimating equations. If you don't know what those are, you'll learn soon. But those are also something that's like really useful in my job as like a traditional master's level biostatistician.
Well, I will also agree that 699 was very useful. It was a while ago now, so I don't remember too many specific projects from it. I guess another class that I took that was also useful was survival analysis, both because I kind of researched in that area for my PhD, and I still do survival analysis from time to time in my job. And I also had a lot of different projects in my GSRA, my research assistant position, that were really nice. Like one position I worked on survey results, which was a nice introduction to survey research or analysis, I guess, because I didn't end up taking a class in surveys. I also had like a project when I was in the family medicine department as a research assistant about like hospital admissions, but we were using Medicare data, which was interesting since that is a really big data set, so I got some experience working with a large data set, kind of complicated to merge everything together and work with that. So, yeah. The classes were very useful, I think, to learn like the basics and learning their like the core knowledge, and then other projects that I worked on were really useful to actually get to apply that.
Thank you. All right, so
For this last session, or last group of questions here, I want to focus more on after graduation. So I want, if you can each reflect on, since many of you in the room have indicated that, you know, the career process after graduation is something that's really important to you, your career prospects after graduation. I'd like for you to discuss the process of looking for a job after graduation and what that job search was like for you.
I had an internship over the summer directly after graduating, so my job search didn't really start until middle of August. And at the time I was in Baltimore and I was looking for jobs. I really wanted to get into Johns Hopkins, but I did have a hard time finding jobs in Baltimore. Once I expanded my search to include U of M, there was so many opportunities here at U of M, and I didn't have a problem with the idea of coming back to Ann Arbor. And I do know a good number of people who graduated in their masters who do end up working here at U of M at the hospital or Michigan Medicine, or even the Biostats department. So yeah, I think I didn't know this going into it, but a lot of people do end up getting jobs here, at least their first job for the first couple of years, getting experience, and then branching outside of Michigan after that. But yeah, it took me about 2 months to get this position I have now, and it wasn't crazy hard. It was, applying for jobs is never fun, but it wasn't like a nightmare.
Yeah, so I started applying for jobs the February of my final semester in my master's degree, and I'm probably a pretty bad person to ask about this, or maybe good from a different perspective, but I just applied to one job and I got it. But I think that like, yeah, well, first of all, you're probably, to bring some physical terms in here, you're probably seeing some selection bias since we're coming here in person, we're all people who work at the university in Ann Arbor, so there's obviously many other things you can be doing. Just a reminder, I work in the urology department here. But I would say that like my biggest advice for the job search is to be let your passion come out and like be passionate about things and let people see that what you're passionate about. And when I was interviewing, like I was really clear that I was really passionate about like visualization and like data science and like using that for communication with clinicians, and that was something that my interviewers really liked at the one job I applied to. Was probably a good reason why I got that offer. And my other advice would be to look at interviews as not just an evaluative process for, not just you evaluating them, but you also evaluating the job if it's a good fit for you, and make sure to, and I would absolutely ask a lot of questions to your interviewer if you have time, which A, helps you determine if it's a good fit for you, and also B, really, it only serves you positively because it also reflects good on you if you're curious about the job and you're asking about things, you're making sure it's a good fit.
So, I guess I'm maybe a little, excuse me, a little different than most people too, but I actually had a baby right after I defended, so I kind of took my own maternity leave. And then a few months later, I started looking for jobs. And I applied to various places. I have a spouse that works in this area too, so I was kind of only applying to local places and then remote jobs. And I got a few other interviews that didn't pan out, and then I heard about this job that I have right now in the cancer data science group. And I think that ended up being a really good fit since I was in the cancer training grant, so I had a lot of experience with cancer research. And so I interviewed for this one and got an offer and took that. And I really enjoy working there, so that worked out, I guess. Did you say advice, I guess?
Yeah, if you have some advice you want to give.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, when you get to that stage, apply to a lot of different places, I would say. I do think that applying to one place and getting the job offer is probably unusual. Yeah, and I would say also, like, try to think of things to ask at the interviews to try to get a fit, an idea if you would fit well there. Yeah.
As you say, there is some selection bias in the pool of alumni here, since we are local, we are in person. But I wanted you to talk about the advantages of working at Michigan. Obviously, there's tremendous resources here. There's a lot of institutional knowledge. There's a lot of prestige that comes with working at Michigan. So can you talk about some of the advantages you have to working at Michigan that you might not have at other places?
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it there. I was going to say, at least in the lab that I work in, there's such a diverse range of specialties that people are in. There's a lot of medical students and recent graduated MDs, but there's also people in like nutrition and epidemiology, and it's such a wide range, and it's kind of hard to find a job where you get to work with so many different people all in one little place. And there's a lot of resources at U of M that you have as a student and that you continue to have if you move on to work here. There's an orchestra that's only open to people who work at Michigan Medicine, and I recently joined that orchestra, and it's like really fun. And there's things that are only open to students and only open to faculty. But U of M is a really great place, really focused on building community and strengthening relationships between people. And there's opportunities like that, like it's an orchestra, but there's opportunities all over the place for whatever you choose to do, to meet people that are in the same place as you. So as students, you'll have opportunities to meet other students and hang out with them. And then now that I'm working here, I have these opportunities to meet other people who are working at Michigan Medicine. And yeah, it's just like a really cool place that they focus a lot, benefits are good. Yeah, it's very diverse in people, and it's cool to be able to have all these opportunities to meet them.
Yeah, I guess I'll start with like probably something I should have gone in the previous answer, but I would say the first thing about working in Michigan is that the first thing that would be good about considering working for Michigan is that a lot of departments like view like a Michigan degree as a feeder into working with them later. So it's that's a really good thing for applying to that. And in terms of like actually working there, like I guess I'll say a little bit more about my career pathway and how it's really helped for me, and if maybe other people might have a similar career pathway. Maybe you won't, but I'm actually starting a PhD program next year. So I graduated my master's in 2023, and I worked for 2 years, and I'm going to start a PhD program in fall 2025, in PhD in Epi, probably at Michigan. I haven't committed yet, but it's probably going to be Michigan. But just for me, it's been so helpful to work in an academic job at an academic institution like Michigan, because it's given me like a lot of more experience with like papers and like the whole academic process with research and all that. It's definitely improved my application a ton. Like I've gotten like so many papers. Like I have like 15 conference papers and like five papers in like 2 years. So this definitely helped my application a lot. As I said, it helped me learn a lot more about research. And you guys are probably too early for this because you guys are considering going to grad school right now. But a lot of people, I feel like we're kind of unsure what they want to do after school. Like, after a master's graduation, like do I want to go down to a PhD? Do I want to do a job? My advice to you, if you're going to be in that situation, is that like just get a job. You can easily come back for a PhD. It's easier to go back to school for a PhD and then the other way around, and leaving a PhD program, and that's a little tough and all that. So if you're unsure about what you want to do after your master's graduation, I would definitely recommend just working. You can always come back, and you'll actually have a much stronger application if you do decide to come back after working for a few years.
So I enjoy working at U of M. I'd say since there's so many people that do different research here, I get to work on a lot of different projects, which is really nice. It keeps things interesting. And we have like a nice group in the cancer data science shared resource that we have like group meetings, and so we can present our research and talk about it, and so we get to learn about what other people are doing, and it kind of keeps you up to date with different kinds of research or like stats methods as well that you might not use every day. And I would also say, since I'm in the department still, like if I have a work thing that is in a stats method that I'm not really familiar with, there's almost certainly somebody in the department that I can reach out to that's like an expert in that, so I could ask them questions, papers that might be good to start with, things like that. So that's a really good resource to have.
All right, we have a few moments left, so I want to open it up to questions that you all might have for our alumni. So if you have a question, please just raise your hand and feel free to ask.
Yeah.
Well, you guys were students. Did you lean on like trying to get internships while you were here with like, I don't know, whatever company is might be nearby? Or did you lean more into like RIs or GSIs where you're like teaching or research on campus?
I think I mentioned this earlier. I was a GSI for all 4 semesters, and that was huge. GSI positions and GSRA positions completely cover tuition, and then you get a monthly stipend. And so that was a huge, huge deal for me to be able to find those positions. I was so, so grateful for that. And that was the main focus while I was a student, was just cover next semester, get a job for next semester. And again, I was really lucky to make that happen. And I didn't do an internship the summer between the 2 years, and then I did have an internship right after I graduated. That I didn't spend a ton of time trying to find that. It kind of fell into my lap. But yeah, I would say I mostly focused on graduate student instructor positions, mostly for the funding aspect, but again, teaching, you learn so much while you're doing it, so you benefit in so many ways from teaching or from doing a research job.
If I can ask a follow-up quickly. Was the GSI position you had, was that within the department, or did you go out and find that from externally?
Yeah, they were all outside of the department. I didn't get a job inside the biostat department. So I ended up teaching 3 classes. One was in the chemistry department, then a complex systems class, and then I got into an introductory stats class my second year, and I taught that 2 semesters.
Just a testament to the fact that I think if you were in the master session earlier, you talked about external funding sources as GSI, so this is proof positive that it can be done, and that our students do find those opportunities.
Yeah, they're out there. The first one is the hardest to get. Once you get your foot in the door, it's a lot easier to stay in and get in GSI positions.
I have additional questions. That what is your secret to it? Is the competition is really high, I think. And how can you get into, especially first semester?
Yeah, it is very competitive. It's hard to get GSI positions, especially if you're just applying to random departments. I was really lucky. I kind of accidentally got a chemistry minor when I was in undergrad.
Are you so?
Yeah, yeah, it was kind of an accident, but by the time I graduated, it was like I needed one more class, so I finished the minor. And then there was a job posting for this huge intro lab, chemistry lab course. They were looking for some GSIs, and so I had my foot in the chemistry realm just a little bit, so I was able to apply to that and get that job. And like I said, once you get the first one, it's a lot easier to go through the application process and say, I already know how to do it, I know the expectations, I know how to teach, I feel comfortable at the front of the room. And yeah, the first one is the hardest. So just apply for things that you have some experience in. I'm sure a lot of you, if not all of you, have math backgrounds or stats backgrounds, computer science backgrounds, but try and find things that allow your expertise to kind of branch out a little bit. Like, I would have never thought that I would teach chemistry, but I had that minor that kind of let me sneak in there.
Anyone else have anything to say about GSIs versus internships or anything to address the
Yeah, so was your original question about like the summer opportunities?
Both
This one-
summer or during the school year, either one. I know some
Okay.
said they get internships during the school year.
Oh yeah, that's true, that's true. So yeah, I mean, I was funded by the department as a part of my offer. So I did a GSI for 3 semesters and a GSRA for my last semester. Although I actually did research on the side as well while I was doing a GSI. So there are actually a lot of opportunities to do like smaller scale research, like it's technically 10 hours a week. If you don't have like the main opportunities, like we said, are like pretty competitive. But like if you want to get involved with research, there are a ton of like opportunities to do like smaller scale research in addition to that. So I was on a GSI, but I wanted to do more research, so I did one of those, and I was paid for 10 hours a week on top of my stipend and tuition waiver from a GSI. In terms of the summer opportunities, I did not apply to internships, and I did research of the summer, and which there's also a ton of research opportunities at the department during the summer, because professors are a lot more willing to fund you because they don't have to pay tuition during the summer. And that's actually a really good way to get your foot in the door for a GSRA position that covers tuition during the semester. So my final semester, which was a GSRA, was with the same professor I worked with in the summer. So that's just how I got my foot in the door, and it's how a lot of people get their feet in the door. In terms of like a research on campus versus internship, I think it really depends on your goals. I of course went to work after my degree, but nonetheless I was still focused on research, and I'm working a research job, so it made sense for me to do a research opportunity in academia, so at Michigan in the department. But I think a lot of people, and I know a lot of people, were more interested in industry opportunities, especially pharma, after graduation. So for them, it made a lot more sense to do an industry internship in the summer they have in their master's degree. And a lot of people do that, and it's similar to how like that doing research assistant can get your foot in the door for a GSRA. Like obviously, like doing an internship really gets your foot in the door for getting a return offer from them as well. So I would just think, for determining what you want to do in the summer, I would just think of your goals. If you're more research aligned, you can do research, and there's a lot of opportunities to get a research position over the summer. And if you wanted more aligned towards industry, I would look towards those industry internships.
So I started on the Cancer Training Gap, which is pretty much just a GSRA, but cancer focused. So I was funded in that research work, continued throughout the summer, and then after I went off the grant, I got a GSRA in the department, and so that also, I just worked on that throughout the summers. So I didn't really look at any internships, I didn't apply to those, but I know that other people did. Like I know someone that graduated with her PhD a few years before me, that was interested in going into industry, and she applied for an industry internship and did that one of her summers before she graduated. So like if that's something you're interested in, they're definitely out there, and even if you have like a GSRA, you're not necessarily tied to stay here all summer. If you want to go out and get that experience, it's definitely an option.
If I could add one more thing. We do have industry folks who come to our department. Eli Lilly usually comes and gives a presentation where they talk about available internships. We have alumni who work at Eli Lilly. There are other companies. We're doing a presentation with Servier Pharmaceuticals later this semester. The School of Public Health holds graduate fairs. They held 3 different career fairs, excuse me, 3 different career fairs this year where different companies come in and talk about the internship opportunities that are available. So between resources in Biostat and then also resources at the school level, there are plenty of opportunities for internships as well. Do we have any more questions?
Just a quick question. What years did you guys graduate, respectively? Sorry if you mentioned it already.
I graduated undergrad in 2022 and then here in 2024.
Okay.
I graduated undergrad in 2021 and from the master's program here in 2023.
So I graduated undergrad in 2011. I got my first master's from that first math program in 2013. Then I got a master's here in 2015, and then I graduated with my PhD in 2021.
Thank you.
I think we have time for one more question if anyone has an additional question to close us out here. Nope. Okay. All right, well, in that case, thank you to our panelists for joining us today and sharing your experiences. Thank you. And without further ado, I'll turn it back over to Nicole for some closing remarks. I do want to make one comment. I will be sending out a post-event survey. Nicole might reiterate this later. We'd really love your feedback. This was a brand new format that we did this year. We want to hear your feedback about how it worked, what we could do better, what you enjoyed about it, etc., so that we can continue to improve the process for you all and for future students coming down the line. So thank you.
So I want to thank you all for coming, for traveling here, and for participating. And I want to encourage you to keep in touch. Let me know if you have any questions. I know we throw a lot of information at you today and this weekend. And we're here to answer your questions. So please, my email is bennigan@umich.edu, or you can email the sph.bio.inquiries email address, and we'll get right back to you. Are there any questions right now before we close it out? I already had lots of opportunities to ask questions, so I'm guessing probably not. So again, just feel free to email me, reach out, and thank you. Thank you for coming, and we hope you'll stay in touch. We have a parting gift for you, which is a Michigan Biostat t-shirt. So I hope you'll grab one on the way out. There's a yellow t-shirts on the left side, and like Kyle said, we will be sending a survey, so please let us know what you liked, didn't like, any areas of improvement. We would appreciate it. Thank you.